All right. Welcome to the first research clinic of the IEEE branch in Swansea University. We are going to be talking about the design thinking methodology as an approach in HCI research. Actually, first of all, can you hear me, Razia? Yeah, she can hear us. I think she wants to say something. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
I can hear you. You can hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfectly. Hello. So let's move ahead. Let's continue. So actually, as PhD students or candidates, there is one secret to speeding up your research. That secret is understanding the methodology applied in your area of research as early as possible. Most cases, we think the literature review is a part of our research that takes a longer period because we try to dig into literatures to unveil problems and challenges. But then the methodology is actually the most critical aspect of your research that if you understand earlier on, other tasks will be so minute and easier for you. So in human-computer interaction research, we have so many methodologies, but then design thinking approach always stands out. Now, what is design thinking? Design thinking approach is just a kind of approach or methodology in human-computer interaction that fixes the user at the front and at the center of your studies. You put your users first and you put them at the center of your studies. And in this approach, there are five major phases. So these phases are the phases that have been applied in the papers we have shared, the 3 papers, but because of want of time, we are going to be discussing only the large language models in design thinking, this one. So we could go in depth and understand what was done in this paper. So if you look at this abstract, this article presents an auto-ethnographic exploration of the use of LLM in the context of design thinking. Now, instead of reading this, I already went through it. Let me just explain what was done in this paper. This author actually designed a traveling application, okay? And this traveling application was to help the users to move from their base to destination successfully, book their hotels and be comfortable. But then he employed design thinking approach by first of all empathizing with the users of the application, proposed application. Because in design thinking, you must empathize, put the users first. So, but then he also employed auto-ethnographic exploration. What that means is that he immersed himself into the research with his experiences. You know, the discrepancy between ethnography and auto-ethnography is the ethnography, you don't have the experience. You go to where you have not gotten any experience to study, but you also immerse yourself. If you want to, for example, study the culture of United States of America, okay, maybe the way they dance. Ethnography demands that you travel to USA. If they are dancing with their clothes on, you wear your clothes. If they are dancing with their clothes off, you off your clothes. You stay with them, eat with them, and then understudy them. Okay? But auto-ethnography is that you have experienced that culture. Maybe you are from US. So with your experience, you don't need to go there. You just sit at the comfort of your home, and with your experience, you think and brainstorm, reason back and back, and So the LLM he used here was ChatGPT. This guy, the author, has been using ChatGPT for a very long time. So he has had series of experiences in using LLM. So that is why he called it autoethnography. Okay? So what he just did in this work was to follow the 5 phases of design thinking to interact with ChatGPT to see if ChatGPT could give him a better result compared to what he would have gotten if he had interacted with human beings. That was what this guy did. So the first phase he did was he empathized with the user. And of course, if you want to empathize with your user, you can do that through conducting interviews, surveys, and all that. Okay, by trying to know what the user really wants for the system or for the technology. So
just scroll down.
Sorry, okay, yeah. Now, if you look at this, you look at the prompt the researcher, the author used from beginning to the end. So to empathize with the user, who was ChatGPT, instead of asking questions like, what do you need in this system? Trying to explore what the user needs. He just went to the ChatGPT prompt and prompted it. I want you to act as a target audience. So if I ask you something, or is regarding emotions or feelings, I want you to respond with your best approximation of what the person in this road would experience. And if you go to the findings of this study, this was to empathize. Through ChatGPT, he got empathetic data, and he defined his problem through ChatGPT. He ideated by brainstorming with ChatGPT. He prototyped by asking ChatGPT to produce a lookalike of what the proposed system should be. And then he tested the system with ChatGPT. That was exactly what this guy did. So now, if you go to his findings, for instance, look at what he asked ChatGPT to do. The first thing he asked. Let me look at the finding. Yeah. He found out that ChatGPT and GBX, that is Google BART system, exhibits the ability to respond to queries from different personas as part of design thinking process. But then there were flaws he noticed. He found out that ChatGPT was too speculative. Like if I ask you, Prajan, how are you? Or I ask you, how are you? You tell me fine, right? And I'll ask you, how was your day today? Instead of telling me your day was all right, your day was fine as a human being, ChatGPT tries to speculate and say, well, from parking my car, I went to this, I went to that, so that it will not make mistake, making whatever data that was gathered to be so bogus. So the research is telling us that from his findings, once you use ChatGPT, which is an LLM-based system, to conduct research, you should try to prompt with a more summarized interaction. Like, instead of saying, how was your day? You can say, how was your day? Please give me this answer in 7 words. Are you getting me? You are now prompting it to reduce the bogusness, you understand, and the unimportant textual output that you get from it. So that is just a kind of what he concluded to guide the design of such an application that you can use to travel. Okay, so with his findings, the designers will now have insights into what a particular application should be, a particular LLM application should be, and how we prompt it. Now let us bring all these things, what he has done, down to our own field of research. I don't know your area of research, I don't know your area of research, but then the design thinking approach actually is directing us towards a path we could follow in our PhDs from beginning to the end without making mistakes. Like, if you understand that the first thing is to empathize with your user, no matter the system you want to design as a PhD candidate or as a PhD researcher, the first thing you have to do is to understand your users. If you are following design thinking approach, okay? The first thing you have to do is to understand your users, to empathize. You could understand your users using any method, okay? It could even be a focus group. You could conduct a focus group to understand your users, okay? For example, if say your research is to design a system for the old, okay? Just if you want to design any system for the old or for the aged, as a PhD student, from the beginning of your coursework, what you have to do is to understand the challenge in that area. Must. It is understanding the challenge that you'll be able to be looking at the solution. So in understanding this challenge is where you talk about empathy in design thinking. So you know that if I ask you what in your area, which level are you in your PhD? You'll be able to tell me I'm in my empathy stage, which means you're trying to understand the users of the system you want to design. Then within me, I will now know that it's either you're conducting interviews somewhere, or you're conducting focus groups somewhere, or you're conducting a systematic literature review with a particular direction, okay? So because systematic literature review help you to comprehensively understand the problem with the research that have been done in that area. So it could be studying the literature. Like, this is the sixth month in the PhD, right? Sixth month. If it's your sixth?
Fourth.
Okay, fourth. You see? So if I come to your system, I'll find out that you are still in your literature review. You are looking at literatures to find out problems, right? So it means you are in this empathy stage. So that even when you're writing your thesis, you'll be able to say that you are in this stage, and in this stage, you can, from the introduction, you say you are employing design thinking method in your thesis. You could say you are employing user-centered design. You could say, there are so many methods you could employ, but once you're employing design thinking and you have introduced that in your PhD thesis, you must conduct interview, survey, focus group, and other things to understand the challenges and what the users really want. Immediately you cross this phase, the next phase is to define. You have to define the problem, what you have found. You could say, from your findings, this and this and this are the challenges. And because of that, this and this and this may be put together to ideation, like to brainstorm on the solution. So now, in the define phase, there are tools we use in design thinking, like the personas, which we designed together during this guy's class. A persona is just a fictitious person, okay? A fictitious person that does not exist, that you create from the circle of your participants. Assuming your participants were 12 in number. Out of the 12 of them, you design persona from maybe three persons and keep them on your table. You'll be looking at them. The personas will direct you, will always make you recall the challenges of your users. That is just what persona does. So in the define phase, persona helps you to remember the problems of the users till you end your design. So, sorry, could you? All right, thank you. So immediately you have defined your PhD thesis problem or whatever design challenge you have. The next thing is ideate. You could ideate even with the users, okay? How do you ideate with the users? By conducting research with the users. That is usability study, okay? In the usability study, you could still bring in focus group. You sit down and brainstorm. Ask them questions, design your questionnaire and throw to them.